Welcome to What's Going On, and today I have with me Mayor Wukela. Thank you for joining the program, and I'm going to jump straight into it. I want to know what's the reasoning behind the major change that Downtown Florence is going through, and actually what does the downtown reconstruction plan consist of?
Well, there's probably fair to say two elements of it. The first is the public investment that's gone on up Dargan Street, beginning with the library, the new little theater, the Performing Arts Center, and the next major investment of public dollars will be the museum that will be located on the, northwest corner of Chevis Street and Dargan Street. Obviously, that's been an enormous emphasis up to this point, and it's involved quite a number of public dollars. The Performing Arts Center alone was about $35 million investment. The museum will be about a $12 million investment. There's obviously been millions spent on the little theater and the library. So, that's been a significant investment with the goal being to bring people downtown. Now, the second part, and arguably the more important part, is private investment. And as you see the people coming, particularly for the public activities that are there, you see private entrepreneurs seeing the opportunity because of traffic to come downtown and to sell their wares to the folks that are there for other reasons. So you see there are obviously merchants that have been there already, but John Keith and his work at the Alchemy Bar and his expansion on that block is an example of private dollars that are coming downtown. Another very good example is the $5.5 million investment of the hotel and restaurant that are planned to be in the old Cosmos building.
Wow.
Right on Evans Street. So I think it's fair to say that as you look at the reconstruction of downtown, certainly it's economic based. Okay, the goal is to bring dollars downtown and bring people downtown, and that has had two components, the first being public and the second private.
So is there anyone heading this project? Is a group or an individual director heading this project?
Sure. Well, from the city's perspective, obviously I'm integrally involved every day. The city manager is certainly very closely involved. We've recently hired a full-time downtown manager for the city. But it's also important to know that each of these projects has been undertaken by a number of entities. The Performing Arts Center is a perfect example. Francis Marion University obviously is a huge stakeholder in that endeavor, as is the state of South Carolina and their funding of the university. The Bruce Lee Foundation and their chairman, Dr. Eddie Floyd, and Mr. Haig Porter, who's a former mayor, is the chair of their finance committee. They're very much involved, and they have invested a lot of dollars downtown. And so they obviously come to the table and bring a very important perspective. The county operates, obviously the library has contributed a significant amount of dollars to the museum and will be operating the museum. So they play a very big and important role. It's my role on many occasions to try to focus all these entities in the same direction and make sure I have Chairman Smith from the county in the same room with Dr. Floyd and Mr. Porter, as well as Dr. Fred Carter from the Francis Marion, and our staff, so that we can all together pursue this goal.
Okay, so other than public dollars, is there any donations being made to help this project? Or?
Well, we have a Downtown Development Corporation that does events, for example, the Pecan Festival,
okay,
and Friday After 5, and they certainly have folks that make or private donations to that cause to bring those festivals to life and make those possible. Those are an extremely important part of downtown revitalization and development, so people can come downtown and see how downtown is thriving. But the private investment, probably the most important private investment, comes not from donations, but from private entrepreneurs' willingness to invest their own money and to borrow bank money to invest in revitalizing these buildings and and bring business and private endeavors downtown.
Okay, so how will previously the older privately owned businesses, how will they benefit from these new businesses? And
well, in two parts. The first part is more traffic, more people means more business.
More business.
Okay. And certainly that'll be a benefit to business owners that are already there. But also the city recognizes that with respect to those businesses that are already there, we need to be able to bring to them some grants and some incentives that help them make, for example, facade improvements, which is a very important thing for them to be able to do. We're going to make monies available to have grants and low interest and no interest loans such that existing businesses that have already been there and are already downtown can benefit from the government's incentivizing of downtown development. But for the new entrepreneur that's coming down, for example, the hotel and restaurant's a good example. We have been able to structure an incentive program for them that will enable them to buy the property that they're going to invest these dollars in, and that will give them reduced property taxes for a number of years to help incentivize them to make this very significant investment. They've done that, I think, 2 or 3, and that are now in the process of renegotiating and actually paying leases on those properties in order to stay there. But those were programs that are set up by existing property owners that wanted to incentivize themselves, folks to come down and lease their properties that were vacant. And they may have had difficulty enticing folks to come in and lease from them. So they said, well, come in and you have the first 6 months free, see how you can get your business going, and then after that we'll renegotiate. And that's I think you're seeing a number of spin-offs from the investment that the city's made and the Bruce Lee Foundation's made and that the county and state have made and that other major private investors have made. As other developers and other property owners downtown see those investments and really believe that downtown is going to take off, they are enticed to incentivize themselves.
Okay, so where do you see downtown Florence in maybe 5 years?
I think 5 years you're going to see a dramatically different downtown Florence. For example, I know this for sure. Within the next 6 months, you're going to see groundbreaking and movement on the museum. That's going to be a $12 million investment. That's going to change the face of downtown immediately. It's going to bring more and more people downtown. John Keith is underway expanding his business right now. I expect that probably by the first of the year 2013, that hotel and restaurant will be underway, and we'll be bringing people downtown. You'll see for the first time in a long time people spending the night downtown, staying in hotel rooms, eating dinner and walking across the street and going to the Performing Arts Center. And I think that pattern of continued construction, continued development, and continued investment downtown is going to continue over the next 5 years. I think in the next 5 years you'll see an Evans Street and Dargan Street that's not recognizable as the streets they are today. And then in the next decade I think it'll be just exponentially. And you can see that having happened to other places. If you've been to Greenville and you were there in the 90s or early 2000s, it was a dramatically different place than it is today. And once that ball starts rolling, it develops exponentially because people want to get in at the base level to be able to make the biggest profit. And so that's what you hope to create.
Okay. So overall, how will the public actually benefit from this downtown revitalization?
Well, the immediate benefit is tax dollars. And I'll give you an example. The hotel and restaurant project, okay, the property that they're currently looking at, okay, the old Cosmos building, before then it was Behringer Hardware and Schofield Hardware. That property right now generates about $2,500 a year in property tax. Okay, that $2,500 is split between the school district, the county, and the city. In fact, the city only sees about 20% of those dollars. When those gentlemen make that investment, spend $5.5 million revitalizing that building, immediately that property tax value will increase probably from $2,500 a year to about $85,000 a year.
Wow.
Okay. Now we're going to give them a tax credit for the first, I think, 7 years. okay, and they'll end up only paying about $12,000 or $15,000 a year. But still, when you're looking at $12,000 to $15,000 a year over $2,500 a year, that's a dramatic increase. And then after 7 years, they're going to be paying in the neighborhood of $100,000 a year. That's one property. That's how much different that kind of investment can make to the tax rolls. But I'll tell you that the increase in property tax and revenue to the city is not going to be the most important change. The most important change is it's going to be a significantly different cultural element to the city. It'll unify the city. And my hope is it'll bring the north and the south sides of town together, common place for people to come and be together. If you've been over to John Keith's place on a Saturday night, you can see the diversity that's there, and the diversity of not only racial diversity but socioeconomic level diversity. You'll see that happening. But not only that, you also see an economic benefit because when you're recruiting the Otis elevators of the world and the Johnson controls, when you're orthopedic and you're trying to recruit a new surgeon, or you're a lawyer and you're trying to recruit a new lawyer, what they want to know is, where am I going to go eat dinner? Where am I going to go have a drink? What kind of shopping is it? What kind of cultural amenities do you have? They want the Greenville type experience, the Charlotte type experience. And when you can offer that, that puts you in the driver's seat as far as recruiting industry and business. And that is where the massive change will be in the experience of living in Florence.
Well, thank you, Mayor, for your time.
Thank you.
Well, that was Mayor Wukela's take on what's going on with the Downtown Revitalization Project. And you make sure you guys stay tuned for another episode of What's Going On.